You assume peace is a destination you will reach after you solve enough problems inside yourself. You assume that once the mind becomes clear, the heart will settle. But your own observation disagrees. Peace becomes available, sometimes even simple, and yet you postpone it. You return to inner motion. You reopen a conflict that was already ending. Al-Ghazali matters here because he did not treat this as a mysterious flaw. He treated it as an intelligible structure. He observed that inner resistance is often protective. The heart resists not because it is irrational, but because it is loyal to something. So the aim is not to force peace. The aim is to understand the rule that makes peace feel unsafe. You begin by shifting your posture. Instead of saying, "Why can't I calm down?" you say, "What is my system trying to preserve?" That single shift changes the whole inquiry. It turns resistance from an enemy into evidence. And the contradiction becomes clean. You want peace, yet something in you behaves as if peace threatens you. That something is not random. It has reasons. Unresolved question: if peace is your goal, why does your inner system treat it as unsafe to enter? To understand resistance, you need a precise definition. In Al-Ghazali's frame, the heart is not mood. It is orientation. It is the center of valuation. What you treat as important, what you treat as loss, what you treat as danger, what you treat as success. The mind can approve of an idea, peace is good, while the heart rejects its implications, peace removes my protections. This explains why you can intellectually agree with a path and still feel unable to enter it. The conflict is not always between right and wrong. It is often between two priorities. Al-Ghazali would say that the heart decides what the mind is allowed to call necessary. If the heart values control, it will create reasons to keep controlling. If the heart values recognition, it will create reasons to keep striving. So you begin to see that resistance does not mean you are weak. It means your deeper valuation is not aligned with what you claim to want. Unresolved question: can you choose peace while still valuing what requires disturbance to stay alive? Now the hidden rule can be stated without exaggeration. The heart protects what it loves. Love here means attachment, an identity you maintain, a benefit you preserve, a fear you justify, a story you use to remain stable. Al-Ghazali's diagnostic logic is practical. Whenever you see repeated resistance, ask what is being protected. Unrest can be functional. It can protect a self-image. I am the one who is always improving. It can preserve desire, because desire needs movement to stay alive. It can justify fear, because fear becomes reasonable when you keep producing reasons. It can maintain leverage, because conflict gives you excuses and delays. So peace becomes costly. Peace threatens attachments because it removes their fuel. If you become calm, you may lose the inner argument that kept you feeling certain. If you become still, you may lose the urgency that kept you feeling important. You do not judge this. You recognize it. The heart is doing its job, preserving what it values. The question is whether what it values is what you truly want to live by. Unresolved question: if unrest serves a purpose, are you seeking peace, or seeking a safer way to keep the same attachment? You often treat peace as a sensation, a quiet mind, stable mood, reduced tension, fewer questions. But this definition encourages you to chase conditions that create temporary closure. You remove disturbance, and you call that peace. Then disturbance returns, and you conclude peace is fragile. Al-Ghazali's frame shifts the definition. Peace is not primarily a feeling. It is coherence. It is an inner reordering where your priorities stop contradicting each other. If you say you value truth but protect comfort, conflict remains. If you say you value sincerity but protect image, conflict remains. If you say you value trust but protect control, conflict remains. reordering means something loses its dominance. A hidden loyalty is demoted. A preferred narrative becomes less important. This is why the heart resists. It is not resisting quietness. It is resisting change in hierarchy. So the practical question becomes sharper than, how do I feel calm? It becomes, what must move in my inner order for calm to be honest? Unresolved question. If peace requires reordering, are you willing to lose your current order even if it creates your unrest? When you observe yourself closely, you see that conflict can pay. It can provide justification. I cannot begin yet because I am not ready. It can provide identity. I am the one who struggles deeply. It can provide urgency. I must fix myself before I can live normally. It can provide control. If I keep analyzing, I prevent mistakes. These benefits are not imaginary. They are functional. And when something is functional, the heart protects it. Peace removes these benefits. It removes excuses. It reduces complexity. It limits your ability to negotiate with reality through delay. Al-Ghazali's insight is that you do not resist peace because you enjoy suffering. You resist peace because unrest has become useful. It gives you a structure where you do not have to risk clarity. It keeps you in preparation rather than action. And preparation can feel safer than commitment. So the resistance is rational inside its own system. It preserves what you unconsciously rely on. But once you see that reliance, you cannot pretend the resistance is mysterious. Unresolved question. If conflict gives you identity or leverage, what part of you would feel diminished by peace? The managing self equates safety with prediction. It believes stability depends on monitoring, planning, checking, and constant readiness. It is called responsibility. Al-Ghazali would interpret this as a learned protection. If your system learns that vigilance prevents harm, then peace feels like negligence. When you start to relax, the managing self generates objections. Not yet. Something could go wrong. You haven't accounted for everything. It does not argue because it loves noise. It argues because it fears vulnerability. You can test this by observation. When you attempt stillness, what rises first? Often it is not wisdom, it is contingency. The mind offers you tasks, not because tasks are necessary, but because tasks preserve the identity of the manager. So peace becomes a threat to the one who survives through control. If you stop controlling, you stop being the one who controls. That feels like losing a role, not just losing an activity. Al-Ghazali's contribution is to make this visible. Your need for control may not be about reality. It may be about who you are when reality is uncertain. Unresolved question. If you built stability through control, how can you accept peace without feeling careless? Al-Ghazali insisted that intention shapes perception. The heart does not only want outcomes. It wants meaning for the self. It wants a way to feel valid. So you may want peace, but you may also want recognition. Even if no one else sees it, you want to see yourself as deep, tested, refined, or exceptional. Struggle becomes proof. Unrest becomes evidence that you are serious. Peace removes proof. It removes the visible sign of effort. It leaves you with a quieter state that provides less narrative. This produces mixed motives. And mixed motives distort peace because peace requires a simplified intention. If part of you wants peace, but another part wants to maintain a special identity through struggle, the heart will hesitate. It will keep some conflict alive to preserve that identity. Al-Ghazali would not treat this as hypocrisy. He would treat it as an invitation to refine intention, not by pretending you have pure motives, but by seeing which motives are actually governing you. So you ask directly, if peace gave you no status, even internally, would you still choose it? Unresolved question. If peace gives you nothing to show, would you still choose it? Peace reduces inner noise. When noise reduces, clarity increases. And clarity can feel unsafe, not emotionally but structurally, because it removes cover. Disturbance can function as protection. If you are busy internally, you can delay facing what you already know. You can delay responsibility. You can delay admitting that certain choices are not blocked by confusion, but by reluctance. Al-Ghazali's method would interpret this as an issue of honesty. Peace is not merely rest. It is contact with what remains when distractions are removed. If what remains is an unresolved duty, an avoided decision, or an unacknowledged motive, then peace becomes costly. It exposes you to yourself without negotiation. So the heart resists. It prefers noise because noise keeps things ambiguous. Ambiguity protects you from final clarity. Peace threatens ambiguity. You can test this simply. The moment you try to be still, what truth becomes harder to avoid? That truth is often the real object of resistance, not peace itself. Unresolved question. If peace reveals what you avoid, are you resisting peace or resisting honesty? The mind often responds to unrest by adding methods. More routines, more rules, more strategies, more self-improvement plans. This is accumulation. It can be helpful, but it can also preserve the same distortion under a more complex structure. Al-Ghazali's approach is purification. He would ask, what biases the knower? What bends perception? Attachment, fear, vanity, control. These do not only affect mood, they affect what you call true, what you call necessary, what you call urgent. If perception is bent, your solutions will also be bent. You will solve problems in a way that keeps the bias intact. So purification means reducing the authority of the bias. It means making the heart less defensive, less bargaining, less self-protective in its selection of truth. When that happens, peace becomes less of an achievement and more of a natural outcome. Fewer internal contradictions produce fewer internal alarms. You do not need more content. You need cleaner seeing. And cleaner seeing happens when you stop calling your attachments wisdom. Unresolved question. If distortion is the issue, why do you keep adding more content to the same distorted system? At the turning point, you stop treating resistance as an enemy. You treat it as information. Resistance tells you what the heart protects. When peace approaches, what objection appears? Not yet. After this is settled. Once I am sure. If I relax, I will fail. Each objection implies a loss. Loss of control, loss of identity, loss of leverage, loss of certainty, loss of a safety narrative. Al-Ghazali's method here is not force. It is inquiry. You interrogate the objection. Is it open to revision, or does it repeat regardless of evidence? If it repeats, it is likely protection, not reason. Second-person observation makes it practical. You do not argue with the mind to win. You listen to discover what is being defended. Once defense is seen clearly, it loses some necessity. The heart no longer needs to disguise itself as logic. This is where peace becomes possible, not by pushing but by clarity. The cost of peace is named, and naming reduces the power of what was hidden. Unresolved question. What truth about your attachments becomes undeniable the moment you attempt real stillness? Now the structure simplifies. The heart often bargains, I will be at peace after I secure this, prove that, avoid this, control that. The bargain sounds reasonable, but it produces endless delay. Each condition creates more conditions. Peace becomes something you must earn through outcomes. Al-Ghazali's hidden rule exposes the bargain as the real mechanism of resistance. Peace does not arrive when the bargain succeeds. Peace arrives when the bargain is seen and released. This does not mean you stop acting. It means you stop using action as a payment for inner rest. You act because action is required, not because it will finally justify your right to be calm. Second-person integration makes it personal. You notice the bargaining voice and you do not obey it automatically. You allow incomplete conditions without punishing yourself through unrest. You stop asking life to sign a contract before you permit alignment. This is surrender as clarity, dropping the claim that peace must be purchased. Unresolved question. If you drop the bargain, what remains of the self built to negotiate with life? At the end, you do not achieve peace as an object. You understand why peace was resisted. The heart was protecting what disturbance preserved: control, identity, leverage, ambiguity, recognition, bargaining. When those loyalties become visible, resistance becomes unnecessary. The mind still functions. It plans when planning is needed. It is useful when thinking. But it no longer uses unrest as proof of seriousness or as a tool for safety. Alignment replaces negotiation. Coherence replaces inner argument. And because peace is not turned into a possession, it does not need to be defended or displayed. It is recognized as non-interference, fewer hidden contracts, fewer distortions, fewer contradictions. One question remains, without pressure, as the mind quiets into understanding. If true peace cannot be claimed without turning it into an object, how will you recognize it without possessing it?